It was something.
We're apparently on the air.
Was something.
Are we live?
We're live.
We are live.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go to the live show so I can check the
what?
check the chat.
Oh, you're gonna look at the chat, are
I'm
you?
looking at the chat.
Chatters.
Let me see some chitter chat. I don't see. Did the tweet go out? There it is.
Did you check Brazil?
Yeah.
Yeah, it went out. It happened. Maybe.
Let's see.
Chitty chat.
Oh, goody. Oh, geez, fellas.
5 people watching this. That means there's at least one person besides us watching this.
That's
No, it doesn't. Damn it.
No.
There's 5 of us here right now. Oh, there we go. 9. Now it's good. We're going up.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yep.
Hold
Ooh,
on to your
this,
Pressure's on.
this is pressure.
Uh,
All right. Do we want to let Rich start?
I feel like where he's the host, he should start.
All right, I'm ready if you guys
I'm
are ready.
hearing feedback in somebody's.
I'm hearing, sounds like somebody's, I don't know what's going on.
crackling or
I
something?
can't tell who.
Is it me?
It's you,
Ooh,
yes.
Yes, it's you.
Oh, it's coming through
okay.
your microphone. Have you got
Okay.
a microphone on your headset?
It's not supposed to be, but
When you
Yeah,
touched your
evidently it
headset,
is.
that's what it happened.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
okay.
true.
So let me fix that. Sorry.
Google Hangout settings. Apparently, I sound like shit.
That's just a general
Settings.
Yeah.
opinion on your
Microphone.
voice.
All right, is that better? Is that better?
Touch the microphone on your headset again and see. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, good.
Touch
Hopefully
it.
my local recording.
Touch it slowly.
Yes.
Press it.
Do it.
Tweak
Do
it.
some more.
Tweak it.
Do it very slowly.
It's
You're good.
Talk to him as if you were a child. All right,
Despacito.
let's do this thing, shall we?
Okie dokie, artichoke.
All right.
I'll tell
Well,
my
Merry
internet.
Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Who messed this? CJ, was that
Christ.
you messing that up?
That was me. I did it.
Boy.
I messed it up.
Well, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hello, and welcome to episode 581 of the Player One podcast. I'm Rich Grisham, not an official host of the show, simply a super fan who gets to hang out with the crew of the absolute best show on the internet every once in a while, at least on special occasions. But do not fret, all of the current members of the show are here tonight for what is an annual tradition. I've already mentioned that the Player One podcast is the best show on the internet. You know that. That's why you're here. But to top it, this show, the favorites of 2017, is absolutely one of my favorite episodes every year. And I know it is also one of the most anticipated and discussed by everybody in the community. Simply put, I'm really happy to be here. So let's get to it. First of all, let's introduce the crew. Up first, a man who has been with the show since episode 1, an individual who has quietly become one of the most powerful individuals in mobile gaming while no one was looking. Glance. A man who was able to land a writing job at a major gaming magazine at the tender age of 8. Sneaky tall, sneaky strong, Mr. Chris Johnston. How are you, sir?
I am doing well. My boss is not White Tiger. Glance. Yes.
Up next, we have the only other man on the planet Earth with the show since episode 1, the only member of the show to be deported from the United States that we know of, someone who managed to make no profit from the founding of the predecessor of what used to be one of the most valuable internet properties in the world, the token Canadian, Mr. Greg Stewart. Greg, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting, Rich.
It's my pleasure.
That was all true.
Up next, we have a man who is decidedly not sneaky tall, someone who was curiously not invited to participate with people he thought were his friends when they began the Player One podcast, and a person who, because of that obvious and premeditated snub, has systematically eliminated not one, not two, but 3 former 4 chairs, Mr. Phil Theobald. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Rich. Hey, I noticed right at the start of the show, you were able to say Merry Christmas without being arrested. How's that feel as an American citizen?
Thanks, Trump.
How does it feel to be able to say that again?
Well, you know, the night's not over yet. You never know who's going to come knocking on your door. And finally, there's a man who has trained the entire internet to roll their eyes with the utterance of any one of 3 trigger words. A man who plays more games in a week than any other Player One podcast host does in a year. A man who somehow managed to be absolutely correct about why the Nintendo Switch would be so special, and he won't let you forget about it. The doomed 4th chair, the gaming unicorn himself, Mr. Ethan Einhorn. Ethan, how are you, sir?
I am good, and actually, I was right about Switch, and come on, let's be fair, post-Battlefront 2, I was right about that other thing, too.
Well, all right.
Got his mic.
As I mentioned, very excited. This is the best show of the year. We're not going to delay it at all with a whole bunch of craziness. We will say how it works. These are the official rules. Every single member of the Player One podcast has spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours this year playing every single major release that has come out. They have completely documented all of their thoughts. And for the last week and a half, actually all 4 of them have been gathered together at a secluded location in order to determine their lists.
All of that is true.
Oh, that's not my notes say that. And
no, it's true.
Right.
Well, it is true, but once the hot tub was turned on, like the work stopped.
There are pictures. Okay, so
stinky.
we there are a few categories selected by I believe by you, Mr. Stewart, because while most of the categories are the same, there's actually, I believe, a slight switch from last year.
Switch.
A change. But the categories are the biggest surprise of 2017, which cannot be a 20-minute discussion about the Switch revolutionizing
That wasn't
entertainment.
supposed to be read on air, but yeah, I love it. This is actually from the show outline. Keep going.
That's right. There's the biggest disappointment of 2017, which cannot be a 20-minute discussion about co-hosts talking about the Switch revolutionizing entertainment. Your favorite older game that you didn't play until this year. The change,
which we revised. We revised that to best older game of the year that you didn't necessarily play for the first time, but it's like a re-release or whatever.
CJ wants to talk about some game that was re-released this year. That's really all that comes down to.
That's right.
Well, considering you are the founding member of the show, CJ, you probably do have quite a lot of leeway in how you determine, what qualifies in that.
That's right. We play by my rules. Yeah.
Yeah. The judges should be okay with that, considering you're the judge. So it should be all right. I think the one change, and I could be wrong, but I think it's different from last year, certainly from 2 years ago, is the favorite portable game now sort of combines mobile, 3DS, Vita, right? That's different, Greg?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And that is because the people want to know.
Mostly because I play maybe one mobile game a year. So it was just the de facto winner was always whatever I played.
Right.
This is probably the last year we need to do this, right? Because 3DS is probably on its way out. Vita is definitely out. Right?
Hold on a second here. We're just
Well, besides the booby games.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
As if those aren't games. Come on, let's be fair. Games
Ethan
are
still has
coming
to
out.
buy Breast Fondler 4, 5, 6, and EX Plus.
Doki
You
Doki
don't have
Panic
to have
Touch
games,
is
Dave.
fantastic. It's one of the.
Yeah.
There is a late category edition, which is favorite DLC. And I think, Phil, you are supposed to define exactly what makes up DLC once and for all.
Yes. DLC is any game that you download at all. Because is a game not
downloadable content?
is a game not content that you are downloading to your
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So if you bought Breath of the Wild digitally this year,
DLC.
even if you didn't spend extra money on add-on packs, it's DLC. If you bought Mario Odyssey digitally this year, it's DLC. DLC.
What if you use your Wii web browser to browse the internet?
Pornography?
Is that
DLC.
Did you download the pornography or did you just stream it? 'Cause that's
Yeah,
a gray
that's
area.
true.
That's a gray area.
Yeah.
Stream loadable
If you-
content.
If you archived it, then
yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
That bootleg of Last Jedi that you downloaded, CJ, that is downloadable content. DLC.
Oh, okay.
Good job.
I would say streaming is okay if it gets you closer to that data cap. It counts as download.
If
But you're
CJ was the one actually filming it in the theater himself before downloading it, though.
Yes.
Does that count? Okay.
I don't do that. My boss is not like Tiger.
Well, okay. So, and then of course everybody picks their top 5 each. So this is great. I am going to stop talking. I'm going to get out of the way and let the crew do their thing. First of all, let's start at the top. Your favorite portable game of 2017 could be mobile, 3DS, or Vita. Ethan.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Metroid Samus Returns, or Return of Samus, pardon me.
No, it is Samus Returns.
Yeah.
You were right.
I got it right on the first try.
Yeah.
This guy is obviously very dedicated to his choice here.
Yeah, it is one of the few games that I was on 3DS that I played all the way through this year. But it was a really solid one and was definitely worth the investment of time. It wasn't easy, but it was a terrific use of both the 3D and the second screen with the map. And I think that it was a worthy successor to other 2D Metroid games. I loved it.
You want to know how dedicated Ethan was to Samus Returns and playing Samus Returns? When we were at Scoop Fest just a few months ago, we went to see Penn and Teller, and it was a great show.
Mm-hmm.
And as we waited for Phil to get various items signed, Ethan, Stewart, and myself waited outside the theater, and Ethan was playing Samus Returns as we waited. Like every moment we weren't hosting a show or doing something at Scoop Fest, he was playing Samus Returns. That is dedication.
When we make jokes, and I just want to point out, when we don't really make jokes, but when we do joke around about Ethan literally whipping out a portable console when he has minutes, minutes of free time. I'm talking like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not a joke. That is how Ethan plays as much as he does. I remember this year for GDC, we met up for dinner one night, and I was the second person in the restaurant, and the elevator opens, and sitting there in the waiting room is Ethan playing his Vita.
Yep. Hatsune Miku.
Sure it was. Whatever.
All right, Ethan, from you we go to Greg.
My portable game of the year is also Metroid Samus Returns. I don't know. I feel like really this has more to do with the fact that portable gaming that wasn't on the Switch really fell off for me this year. I didn't really play many other portable games this year, to be completely honest. Samus Returns, I ended up really hating it about halfway through. There were a couple terrible choke points that I still think were just awful design decisions. But overall, I ended up really enjoying the game. I have really fond memories of it now. I feel like Mercury Steam did a really good job where I was really afraid they wouldn't after their last outing for Castlevania on console and on 3DS. So I'm interested to see if they get another crack at this, or if they get another crack at, hey, like maybe a Zelda 2 remake or something. That'd be cool.
This game, I heard many of your descriptions about it, but not being a big Metroid person in the past, and then hearing about the difficulty, and with all the other games going on, I didn't take the plunge. But considering it's both of yours, at least 2 out of 4 favorite mobile game of the year, I should probably rethink that, it sounds like. All right, well, that brings us to Phil.
My portable game of the year is a little 3DS title called Metroid Here Comes Samus. I'm sorry, Return of Samus.
Samus Returns.
I'm sorry, look out for Samus.
If that has an exclamation point at the end, that is a better title.
Metroid Samus. Exclamation points after every
I get that one. I get that reference.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Samus Returns. For all the reasons the other gents have mentioned so far, I have to admit I wasn't I was not super enthused about this game when it was first shown off, just because I didn't think it looked that great in like early video and screenshots. And Metroid 2 is kind of one of the weaker Metroid games.
It's the weakest Metroid game.
Yeah.
I would argue.
Is
it?
Is it more than the
weaker than Other M?
Oh yeah, I forget about it. Okay, it was the weakest. Yeah, it was the weakest one until Other M. Sorry, I stand corrected.
Or what was that 3DS game or the DS game?
Oh, they don't count. They don't count.
Metroid Prime Hunters.
Hunters, that's the one. Yeah.
Or the recent one that was from Next Level Games.
Federation Force?
Yeah.
That wasn't a Metroid game either.
I haven't played that one, so I can't really comment.
That was good.
I didn't play it, so I didn't say a word about it because I didn't play it. So I have no opinion on Federation Force. But Samus Returns turned out really, really well. I was very pleased with it. It felt like a true entry in the Metroid series. It improved on Metroid 2. I dug the counter attack mechanic in the game. So yeah, good stuff.
So, will CJ make it a clean sweep, or will the self-proclaimed king of mobile throw a curveball?
Well, let me tell you something, Rich. I also voted for a 3DS game as it's sort of the swan song of the 3DS since the Switch has come out. I don't carry my 3DS around as much as I used to. The Street Passes have kind of gone dead. So I picked a little game called Metroid: Look Who's Samusing Now.
Oh,
yes.
Very nice.
Metroid: Phil wishes he thought of this joke.
I also picked Samus Returns for the obvious reasons, and really I think it was the best 3DS game of the year, the only 3DS game that I really paid any attention to. I was kind of surprised. The 3DS kind of lived on. They did that top 100 Mario Party thing. They did the Mario Sports thing. But
Fire Emblem Echoes.
Fire Emblem, wasn't really interested in that. Like, once the Switch came out, I was only interested in games for the Switch as portable experiences. Because if you're on a trip, you only really want to take one portable gaming system with you.
Yeah.
So, Samus Returns for all the reasons that everybody else stated.
Well, this has been easy.
We're gonna
Metroid, TOO.
We are definitely gonna have to have the judges take a look, but I believe this might be the first ever unanimous choice for anything on these awards.
I think that's true.
It could be.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe the closest we might have come before might be The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
Possible.
Yeah, it's possible. Good point. We're going to have to get the team to go back. I actually did listen to the last few years of these episodes the last few days, which was a whole lot of fun. And by the way, I recommend you guys, you should probably go listen to them a little bit because you talk a lot about what's happening or what's going to happen in the next couple of years. And some of you were right on and some of you weren't quite exactly, well, you were way off. But that's okay. It's still entertaining to hear. Because all right, so that brings us to the next category, which is the biggest surprise of 2017. And this could be anything, I believe. I don't think it has to be a game. Okay, good. So we will do this fantasy football snake style. So CJ, you went last before. You will go first now. CJ, what is your biggest surprise?
Biggest surprise, I would say, is Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle on the Switch.
That's good.
Because
that's a good one.
when it was first rumored in November 2016, people heard Rabbids and Mario game for the new Nintendo platform. This has to be the worst thing ever. And then this year we got the leaked screenshots of the Mario Rabbids game. And again, it was like, oh God, that looks like it's going to be total crap. This is going to be the worst thing ever. And then they announced it at E3 and it was like, hey, you know what? This thing is awesome. And it came out in August, and I bought it and thought, hey, this thing is really awesome. And I went back and played it over the last week. I played some challenge maps with my daughter, actually, and she was totally into it. And I picked up my save file and started playing it a little more. And you know what? I can't believe they did it, but they made a third party made a Mario game that felt like it could have been made by Nintendo. They got all the sort of little touches that Nintendo is famous for putting in their games right. And I thought it was just so surprising. A game that everybody thought was going to be total shit turned out so well.
By rights, it should have been. Because it's got terrible
by rights, it should have been.
Characters. On one side, at least.
So you are on the record as loathing those characters, correct?
Oh, God. Yeah.
They are bad characters.
Yeah, they are.
But the game is great. And the dev team in Italy just knocked it out of the park. Just did a fantastic job, and the whole story of the main developer who talks to Miyamoto, pitched the idea to Miyamoto, is just so great. And the E3 presentation where he's like near tears.
I love that. That was my favorite E3 moment.
Was just
and
great.
Those guys are incredible game designers as well, because they were able to simultaneously streamline the XCOM experience without making it a baby game. This game actually gets quite tough, but it's always compelling. You always want to come back.
But then they also do have the easy mode, which is accessible for youngsters.
Yep.
So.
All right. Phil.
Yes.
Your biggest surprise of 2017.
My biggest surprise of 2017 was being invited to Scoopfest. Because I've been a fan of Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social for some time, and just knowing that Paul Mattingly is a listener and a fan of our show is just cool from the perspective of, hey, this is someone whose work I admire, reciprocating that sort of appreciation. But then to actually go that extra mile and invite all of us to travel from all corners of the continent out to Vegas for the opportunity to do our very first live show at a comedy festival was an outstanding experience. It was great seeing most of these guys in person again. It was great meeting the Ice Cream Social guys. It was great meeting and hanging out with all the scoops, playing games, telling jokes, just goofing around. And it was just
great meeting. Finally getting to meet in person Mike Phillips.
Yeah,
that was a fantastic
exactly.
extra surprise that he actually
Mike
was able to.
Yeah, for Mike to make the trip down there, and that was my first time meeting him as well. And he's a sweetie, and it was just an amazing experience, and I hope we get to do it again next year.
And I must say, as obviously a longtime fan of the show, it was a lot of fun to see it. You guys made it available to view. But I also got to say, I was really impressed. Doing what you guys do in front of a live audience is a very different. Well, everything about it is different. So, and you guys not only pulled it off, but you sounded like you were enjoying it, and it felt natural. So, congratulations, well done, everybody.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It was great.
Cool. All right. That brings it to you, Greg, for your biggest surprise of 2017.
My biggest surprise of 2017 was learning that I could eat in pitch black. And the amazing conversation that went along with it. No, I'm kind of excited that I get to do this this segment before Ethan, because I got to say, to me, the biggest surprise of 2017 was the success enjoyed by the Switch. I don't think I was alone in thinking that that system was a huge gamble for Nintendo. I think it had to be a huge gamble considering how the Wii U went. But when you looked at it early on, knowing that it was based on sort of some I think relatively older mobile technology, knowing that it was knowing a lot about it basically, and even when they did the official launch of it, knowing that Mario plus Rabbids was a thing. Knowing that there was going to be a fair amount of stuff released for it that was kind of felt like stuff that should have either been a Wii U game or had previously been released on the Wii U. It just didn't look like it should have done as well as it did. And super happy to see that it did. But and the first one to say I was completely wrong about that. Nintendo did it again, just like they did with the Wii. You looked at the Wii early on and wondered what the hell they were thinking. And they owned the world with that, and they did the exact same thing with the Switch. So they captured lightning in a bottle again. And good on them.
Well, I got to tell you, Greg, I completely agree with you. That was my biggest surprise. And I'll just add, as a parent, and my son is 10, and his experience with the Switch being that age, and not only the machine, but the quality of the games, it could not have come at a better time, right? For someone that age who understands games and loves games, to get those experience just sort of was the icing on the cake for me.
It was watching today as well. I mean, I like the portability of it. I loved, taking it to Vegas with me. But even today, I mean, today is the second day of Christmas vacation for my kids. My two older kids in particular have sort of play multiplayer games together. And today they just sort of had the Switch and we're running it through its paces. They're playing some multiplayer Mario Kart, and then my son kind of got bored with that and wanted to play Minecraft on the big TV. So my daughter decided she wanted to check out Mario plus Rabbids, and it was great. It's a great little machine, and I gotta say, as much as I kind of try to play devil's advocate on the show,
oh boy, do you ever!
I feel like I kind of have to, and but it was definitely the biggest surprise for me. And I said, first one to admit I was wrong about what that system was going to be and how successful it's been.
I am right there with you. So that brings us to you, Ethan. What is your biggest surprise for 2017?
So the biggest surprise for me actually happened at the very end of the year.
Just like right now, like 5 minutes ago.
Close.
It was Greg acknowledging that the Switch is good.
Yeah.
Nope. It was Apple acknowledging that customers deserve drop rates in all of their games.
Oh boy.
This is a huge deal. It is like Darth Vader picking the Emperor up at the end of Return of the Jedi and throwing him off the bridge. It's like you wouldn't expect Apple of all companies to do this, but they own a huge part of the market. And now that they have let customers know that they've always deserved and should have as a customer right transparency, I think we're going to see next year all the other companies following suit. I think Apple is the first, and it had to be the first. And I'm really excited. I'm proud of them to do that and to drop the top grossing lists from the App Store. I think that they're making for a friendlier ecosystem and taking responsibility, and that's awesome.
I got to say that it is quite a precedent to be set for all of the ESRB member companies to, I would presume, next year quickly adapt so that they don't have to deal with any sort of whispers of regulation and anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Keeping going on the fantasy football snake style draft, Ethan, we're going to bring it right back to you to lead us off with the biggest disappointment for 2017.
Phil.
So that's also a pretty recent thing. For me, that is, without question, PlayerUnknown's Battleground on Xbox. Because I was expecting something that would at least be playable given the level of hype it had. I knew it was going to be early access, but it had to be something that they could hang their hat on and say, this is what the Xbox is all about. And boy, was that and is that game a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's a terrible thing for Microsoft. I think it's terrible for Bluehole, and I think they will make it better. But I think first impressions, especially when you're charging $30 right up front, mean a whole lot. And I think that everybody playing was disappointed with this, and the lowest of low expectations were reached. I just can't believe they pushed this thing out the door.
Yeah, and I think it'll lead maybe to a positive in 2018 where we saw a couple of sites reviewing the Xbox game, or maybe not reviewing, but putting thoughts together and publishing that. Whereas I think before there was this taboo, right? Like you don't want to review an early access product because it's early access and it's supposed to be buggy and all this stuff. And I think PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on Xbox One kind of started to turn that around, where I think outlets can publish opinions and thoughts about an early access game, maybe even assign it a score like IGN did with a 5.0 out of 10. And, as gamers, I think we have all been saying, games get day one patches. Why are you releasing these unfinished games? And then at the same time, oh, this game is in early access, you shouldn't review it. Or accepting the way that Battlegrounds was released on the Xbox One in such a state. I really feel like we're going to see, repercussions from that, which I think are actually positive in general, where we're going to see more review type opinions on early access games when they release.
I feel like with PUBG on the Xbox, they used early access as a shield against reviews. You can sure call it early access, but really that's saying we didn't finish it, but we're still charging you for it. That's brutal, and you can't. You shouldn't manipulate the media like that. Yeah,
like early access when it's used on Steam to talk about a PC game that is really actively in development is one thing.
Yeah,
when it's
exactly.
A port of a PC game.
Yeah, it's not
that
early
is
access,
just getting to
port.
1.0. It's not really exactly the same thing. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes moving forward.
Yeah.
Very good. Gregory, your biggest disappointment for 2000?
I'm going to go dye my beard orange and say that my biggest disappointment this year was loot crates in premium games on consoles.
On Ethan's face, did you see the smile on Ethan's face?
because it just, not everybody, and I don't want to say the existence of loot crates period, but seeing how far some publishers stretched it, and to the point that it dominated the conversation on a lot of big games this year, and it sucks because it took conversation away from what the developers had accomplished in those actual games. And I hate that. I hate that the industry's become that. I hate that it's become this big squabble over this stuff. I'm not naive enough to think that loot crates or other sorts of continuing monetization are ever going to go away. But it was disappointing to see the overreach that happened this year. And I mean, EA is probably the biggest offender on the console side. But everyone else is really walking that line. And, it was kind of good to see that tipping point happen at the end of the year. I think Ethan was right to a point that it'll make everybody stop and reassess a little bit, but it doesn't mean it won't happen again. It just means that they'll start making smaller advances in what they're trying to do, as opposed to, running for that line full force like they did with Star Wars. So it's a shame. I know it's a trend that's going to continue. I hope it calms down a little bit so we get to talk about the games again next year instead of the monetization.
Yeah. The only thing I'll add to that is I'm glad to see that customers are far more empowered than I think anyone thought they were.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I promise that's the last time I'll mention it tonight.
Me too.
Phil.
Yeah.
Your biggest disappointment in 2017.
My biggest disappointment in 2017 is how Greg has become Ethan Light.
I wouldn't call me anything light.
Well, what about
fat?
Mini Ethan? I like that. You're shorter than I am.
Yeah, I am shorter. That's true. Yeah. I've got less body hair.
Oh man. My biggest disappointment is that Crackdown 3 is delayed again. Because it's like I'm still hanging on to that sliver of hope that maybe Crackdown 3 will be good and will sell me an Xbox One. And I really want Crackdown 3 to be great because I love the original Crackdown so very much.
It's not
okay. I'm gonna make a bet now. Even if the game is great, I'm gonna say that Phil still does not buy an Xbox for one game.
I'm with you on that side.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
I think he will, because Xbox Ones will be like $150 by the time.
Yeah, seriously.
You might buy an old used one, yeah.
Maybe you guys underestimate just how much I love the original Crackdown, and am hoping that this third one will recreate the joy that I felt playing that game. Original Crackdown is one of my favorite games of all time.
Well, Phil, when's the last time you played the original Crackdown?
Oh, it's been a while.
Because it's backwards compatible on the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Terrific reason to pick one up, plug it into that nice HD 4K TV you got sitting there.
To be fair, he's been there though.
I don't have a 4K TV. Unless
find a good
something that I don't know about. Christmas is coming.
I'm here today.
I see Ethan's wife in the background wrapping a present. So
yes, that's true. I thought she was full of laundry.
Maybe Ethan's surprising me with something. So
I'm surprising you with something. It's not a 4K.
Oh. La 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 la. It's Ethan's dog.
It smells awful, and it's not mine.
Ew. Wait, what?
I don't know what's happening now.
See, I've just J.J. Abrams you. I've made a magic box. Like, I've made a big surprise, and it doesn't matter what's in the box. It's that you're now curious.
I'm going to Ryan Johnson you. There's nothing in the box. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Nothing's in the box.
I'm going to blow up this goddamn box.
Nothing's in the box. Throw it away. The box never mattered.
CJ, that brings us to you for your biggest disappointment of 2017.
Yes, I think I'm going to go a different way. Talk about a mobile game, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a great 5 minutes for me.
That was a great 5 minutes. No, when Nintendo first talked about its mobile strategy and that they were bringing certain games and there was going to be Mario and Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing, I think we all thought, great. Like Animal Crossing, I think would fit very well considering the fact that there are a lot of successful town builders on mobile. That's a whole thing. As a genre that does very well on mobile. And I thought anyway, it would translate very well to Animal Crossing. And I was very disappointed when I downloaded the game while it was on soft launch in Australia to find that it was basically just Animal Crossing theme around a time-based sort of chore trading game. Not much else. It really was missing out on some of the exploration elements of Animal Crossing. You can place bridges and stuff in the original Animal Crossing. There was no like secret minigame island in this. There was no designing clothes, no real collection element for the museum and things like that. It just really didn't have the heart and soul of Animal Crossing. And I thought that was really disappointing from the game that I kind of had in my mind that Nintendo could make from Animal Crossing on mobile.
Well, and I think if we're honest with ourselves, looking at what Nintendo's done on mobile so far, all the titles feel obligatory. They don't feel clever. They don't feel rich. They don't feel deep. Maybe the most unique experience they had was Miitomo, but that felt more like a toy or a novelty than any kind of meaningful game. I think that their heart isn't in it, and I think that they probably lost interest in mobile, or at least some of that interest when the Switch took off, because it was.
I mean, you look at Fire Emblem Heroes, that has done exceedingly well for Nintendo, and they have done monetization in a way that I feel anyway is very fair and very ethical compared to what some other companies do with that. I was expecting after Mario Run, Miitomo I think was just an experiment. Mario Run was also an experiment with me, and it didn't quite work. Fire Emblem Heroes is where I think they got it right, and then they didn't take any lessons from Fire Emblem Heroes and to make a freemium Animal Crossing. They just steps back and made an Animal Crossing experience that didn't. It was nothing. It felt like an ad for another Animal Crossing game that we don't even know anything about yet. If they're actually making that.
So Fire Emblem, again, as probably the show's biggest Fire Emblem fan, I do still think that that's kind of the Superman 4 of the Fire Emblem series. But I think the reason it is deeper than the other ones is that it's intelligence systems that's working on that. So I think that that is different than like Nintendo EAD working on it. So I think that perhaps that group was more in tune with what mobile consumers were looking for.
Possible.
Well, we are moving on to the next category, another one of my favorites to hear about every year, which is, and I believe I have this right, CJ, correct me if I'm wrong, your favorite older game you didn't play until this year.
No, that's not correct.
Ah!
Oh, God.
Your favorite older game that you played in 2017. You may have played it other years too.
Very good.
I'm dying to find out what CJ says.
Yeah, really.
All right.
He's really got a major hard on for this whole.
Well, luckily, thanks to the rules of fantasy football snake draft styles, which I know all of you are intimately familiar with because of the deep fantasy football ties that you all have, CJ leads us off.
Well, let me tell you about a little game that got re-released for the Nintendo Switch. It's called Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
As he leans in.
So blatant. So blatant.
Leaning into that one. That was great.
That's right. Yep. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. A game I played a lot of on the Wii U. A lot. And I played a lot of it again on the Switch, even though all of the tracks and all of the stuff was basically unlocked right from the get-go. I just think it's an amazing package. What else can I say about it? I am disappointed that they didn't do any more DLC for this or add some other new features besides being able to hold 2 items at once. Although that did quite a bit. I mean, that
changes it a little
Battle
bit.
mode. Battle
Changes
mode's a
it.
pretty big deal.
Yeah,
Battle
I
mode
never,
sucks.
here's the thing. I never cared about battle mode.
Okay, but if you like battle mode,
so
nice.
if you like battle mode, fine. That whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really liked Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I honestly can't wait to see what Mario Kart 9 brings us, considering the way that Nintendo handles online games like ARMS and Splatoon now. I think it'll be great. But I guess we'll have to see. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, though, if you didn't play it on the Wii U, definitely check it out.
You're missing out on the best Mario Kart if you don't.
It is so good. It is the best
good.
Mario Kart, bar none.
And it looks beautiful on that machine.
Mm-hmm.
And the last time I played it was today. Took
we were
Well,
playing
took the kids out to
It's
go get some
perfect
hot
for the
chocolate,
holidays.
and we played. Yeah.
It's also a perfect holiday game when you get family members together and everybody wants to either do something fun or just stop from killing each other. You put Mario Kart up on the TV and you get 3-4 people playing it like that. It's a wonderful, family experience, especially around the holidays too.
That's
And
exactly it.
Quick aside, by the way, I now cannot beat my 11-year-old at it. I like.
Grounded.
At the game.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
But you
Your
can.
wife, what I love is your wife is standing back there, has no idea what we're talking about, and all she can hear is you saying, "I cannot beat my 11-year-old anymore."
Yeah.
And we're all like, "Yeah, tell me about it, brother."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. All right, that brings us to Phil.
Yes.
I won't even try to say the name of the category because it's changed, and I can't. Right.
Well,
We all know what we're talking about.
if the category is old games that you get to play for the first time now, I would like to nominate 80% of the Switch library.
Which is one of the reasons why I love it. Please continue.
I'm gonna say Injustice: Gods Among Us is my that's the game I've been playing that didn't come out this year that I am getting a kick out of.
I've got to get that.
Yeah, I've talked about this in recent weeks on the show. I picked up Injustice 2 on the cheap recently and over the Black Friday.
I'm pretty sure Injustice is on the Xbox Games Pass too, I think.
Oh, is it really?
I think it is.
Pretty sure it is.
I had picked up the first Injustice for like $5 on PSN ages ago and promptly forgot about it without ever having booted it up. And starting up Injustice 2, which the plot, the story mode picks up right after the end of the first game. I was clearly lost as to what was going on, so I went back and started playing it, and that's a really good game. I'm enjoying Injustice. So I liked NetherRealm's Mortal Kombat games that they have done, and they do a really good job with the DC superheroes and having most of the voices from the cartoons that you remember. Does a lot in making that story mode even more engaging. So I am really digging it. So there you go.
Very good. All right. Yeah. Greg.
So this past week actually it was released on Friday. I sat down with Mr. Grisham along with Pete Dodd, Mr. Benry. I can't remember his first name. Oh my God, Dave Benry.
Dave Benry.
And the chairman himself,
Dr. Ken.
And we did our favorite racing games.
That was fun. Year. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, no problem. It was a great time. And I think it was Dr. Ken that brought up, or it was somebody anyway who brought up Baja Edge of Control, which is an old THQ racing game from the Xbox 360 that I fired up for the first time this year. It came out. There were 2 Baja games that came out back on the 360. One absolutely terrible one called Baja 1000 by Activision, and this one by THQ that I picked up really cheap a couple years later and just turned it on for the first time this year, just for the hell of it, basically, and absolutely fell in love with it. It's a great off-road racing game with tons and tons of content, some of the greatest off-road racing game track design I've ever seen. And as I was sort of getting to the end of that and praising it up and down to anyone who'd listen, THQ Nordic announced that they were releasing an HD version like a month later. So it's available now on Steam, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and I highly suggest you go play it. And that's my favorite game I didn't play before.
Fabulous.
Cool.
All right. Ethan.
Yeah, it's so many to look at and choose from, but the one I came down to ultimately was Doom. Playing that now on Switch, being able to sit in a coffee shop and play Deathmatch, getting further in the game than I did when it first came out, and feeling like I had the time to look in every nook and cranny for all of the secrets, really excited me. On top of which, seeing not just a game that came from the 360 or PS3 era, but something that's fast-moving and graphically high intensity from PS4 and Xbox One running that well on Switch is really exciting to me when you look at future releases like Wolfenstein 2 and the assumption that a lot of other developers are going to start to put more stuff on that platform this year. Doom is the harbinger of all things great for 2018 to me.
Can I ask you something?
Yep.
Because I was thinking about this the other day, because you constantly talk about how you go to the coffee shop and play your Switch and things like that and playing Doom.
The home away from home.
Do you ever get self-conscious about playing M-rated games in public?
No, I don't. No.
Really?
Funny enough, I do get self-conscious if I'm playing like a mobile game. But if I'm sitting playing my big Switch game, I feel totally at ease. No problem if it's M-rated or not. I mean, I'm not going to like aim the screen at somebody for them to see it. I would, probably prefer to sit in a corner, but I wouldn't be uncomfortable with it.
And I'm not judging you or anything. It sort of hit me because I actually was at my desk eating lunch the other day, and I had not finished watching The Punisher on Netflix. So I turned it on, but we sit in an open concept office, and it got into a really violent scene, and I was just like, nope, I don't want that on my screen.
I think maybe I would be more self-conscious if I was sitting in a plane where you're, elbow to elbow with people. That I'd be more self-conscious of. I think also, though, if you're talking about anything live action, because I think I've regaled you guys in the story of playing on a bus Hostel on my PSP and realizing, maybe this isn't such a good idea.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a little different than Doom, though.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Greg. That's why I can't really watch like many video game shows. Like I can't watch like the E3 press conferences or anything at work because the trailers are often so like hyper violent that if you're not like aware of video games are in it, people see it and I remember one time, it's like 3 or 4 years ago, a coworker saw I had an E3 trailer going on for something. Or I had, the press conference, and they saw an E3 trailer, and they said, "What in the world are you watching?" I looked, and it was some murder scene. I was like, "Oh, nothing." Yeah. Anyway, so
the Last of Us 2 trailer this year was that for me as well. I had to stop it halfway through because it's like this is extremely violent, and I feel like it's getting worse, and I don't want anyone to look at my screen right now.
Yep,
so
exactly. Yep. Okay, I'm just going to mention a couple things real quick. I'm a big fan of the Xbox One Games Pass. I use it a lot, especially now that I have that terabyte hard drive. And I finished 2 games through Xbox Games Pass that I had never played before this year. One was Toy Soldiers, which I don't know if any of you have played. I think we chatted about
that game.
One of the most fun games of that style possible. And when you take a fun, real-time strategy tower defense and you put the World War I weapons and soldiers and battles on top of it. Me as a fan of that sort of thing, I loved it. The other is I played and finished, which is a pretty big game, Sleeping Dogs.
What a good game.
What a really great game. Yeah. Wonderful game.
The fighting is awesome.
I mean, and this is a 5, 6, 7-year-old game. People who listen to the Dodcast know I've been talking about it for months, so I won't go on. But it was so good. I played it all the way to the end. And even started some of the DLC add-on missions. Excellent.
Those are good too. Yeah.
And it's interesting playing that game now. It's much more akin to a GTA 3 than to the current GTAs because while it visually looks bigger and better than obviously Grand Theft Auto 3 or Vice City, it doesn't have the complete realism of like the newest GTA where everything is so hyper realistic. To me, it makes me a little weird. It's still sort of cartoony enough to where the crazed violence didn't quite, sort of turn me off like it does in the modern GTA. So
well, and I'll say something that might be a little controversial, but I think that mechanically it's a stronger game than the Yakuza games. It's not as good in the storytelling department, but I think in terms of mixing open world with melee combat, it's just unparalleled.
a lot of fun. And if you have Xbox Games Pass, I strongly suggest trying them out. And if you don't have Xbox Games Pass, I strongly suggest you try it, because to me, it's so much better than PlayStation now, because you get to download the games and play them instead of streaming. So I strongly prefer the Xbox One Games Pass, which, by the way, has just so many games of every single type. It's a great value. All right. Well, that gets through the preliminary session, gentlemen. Are you ready for the top 5 countdown?
Into hour 2.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So we will start with number 5. Now, this has changed a lot through the years. You know, Ethan was the Spanish announcer last year. He did actually destroy several people's speakers. So, you know, we all know Phil is the English announcer, but who's going to step up and be the Spanish announcer this year? I'm willing to do it, but, you know, Ethan is the incumbent.
I don't know. I wouldn't call what he spoke last year Spanish.
I have heard several requests on Twitter that Ethan do it again. And
all right, let's do it.
No. I think it's time to hand it down. Come on. After we've heard the Portal, GLaDOS voice from CJ, I think we found a new master of voices.
No.
Okay.
I say Rich should do it.
If Rich
I just hope that whoever does it actually knows how to count backwards.
See, I don't really, which is why I kind of want to do it.
Okay,
So,
I would nominate Rich.
Let's do it, Rich.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay.
You got to put on your sexiest voice, though.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and this is all, obviously, this is a tribute to the late Mike Phillips, of course. All right.
Bring the velvet fog.
Yes. Phil?
Number 5.
Numero 5.
That was excellent.
Boom.
Trey Bien.
It's getting warmer in here, my friend.
That was smoldering.
All right, Ethan, start us off.
I do declare.
Okay. So I'm going to start off number 5, a game that I have now put 85 hours into, and that is Splatoon 2. It's such a fun loop of gameplay. Really have enjoyed the Splatfest throughout the year. Enjoy the single player. Love the use of the tilt control in the game, and it runs smooth as butter. Had a lot of fun with my kids playing it as well, and I put maybe 5 hours into the first Splatoon, but this one was the Splatoon that I always wanted. Loved it, and I love that they keep adding to it. The Clam Blitz is another great addition, just super cool, and definitely one of my most played and worthy of my top 5.
I still need to play this at some point, but what you described is the whole reason why I didn't. I spent the first Splatoon did not hold my interest at all. So I always loved the way it looked. I always loved the way it looks. But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that this is the first deathmatch game. Well, it's hardly just deathmatch, but it allowed me to get into a game like this in a way that I just never have with Call of Duty or Battlefield or anything else. And part of it is the look.
Yep, Splatoon 2 was a big deal around our house when it came out, for sure. One of my son's first real online experiences. All right, that brings us to you, Greg.
My number 5 actually could have been in the Fave Older Game category as well, and would have been had it not been on my top 5, and that is Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap. I'll say on the Switch. It was on everything, but I played it on the Switch. It was the first game that actually really grabbed me on the Switch. So, of course, a remake of an old Master System Metroid-style game. This was, after Wonder Boy had stopped being basically what Adventure Island was based on and had become what Wonder Boy would be moving forward, which was a more Metroid-style adventure. And I'd always heard amazing things about Dragon's Trap, but I was never a Master System guy. I went back and tried to play it on an emulator once in a while, but playing on an emulator, I wasn't really invested. But man, the work that Lizard Cube did on this port, unbelievable. Like they put themselves right up there with companies like Way Forward as far as 2D art and animation. Oh my god, like
tiny team.
It is absolutely gorgeous. You could argue it's the best looking game of the year. The animation is unreal in that game. And also the great respect they paid for the original. It's not a remaster. It's not a rethinking of the game. It is literally built over top of the original game.
Yeah.
And you get to play listening to the original sound if you want, or the FM sound from the old Master System. You can play with the original graphics as well. Just absolutely gorgeous. Not a huge amount of that. It was only 5 or 6 hours long, which is not bad nowadays for me. Just absolutely enjoyed it from start to finish.
Some of the mechanics still do feel pretty old, and
they
that
do.
is obviously part of the way the game was designed. But I will say, this game, if you liked it, let those guys know on Twitter, because it is a tiny team and they respond to everything and they're very gracious. And
I really hope they do something else like this.
Yep.
And honestly, some of it does feel dated, but a lot of it also, because of the fact that it is literally built on the code of the old game, really made me appreciate what all those people have been saying for years. All those people who do have fond memories of this game and did play this game back in the day and who praise it up and down. Now I get it.
Yep.
It has actually aged quite well, considering everything.
Awesome. I didn't see that one coming. Cool. All right, Phil, your number 5.
My number 5 is a game that came out very, very early in 2017. I think it was my most anticipated game of 2017 back in the day, at the end of 2016, for PS4, Gravity Rush 2.
Oh, beautiful game.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Gravity Rush games, and just the look of the game, like you guys were saying, they're beautiful, and I love the experience, the feel of being able to manipulate gravity and flying and just zooming across the map and pinpointing your location and just slamming to the ground and fighting weird ass monsters.
Weird ass monsters.
Like, the monsters are giant asses and they are weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I think it's a superhero game fundamentally, and
for sure.
I think it shows some of the benefits of doing a superhero game around an original character instead of trying to hit the fidelity of a Superman or a Batman.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful little game, and I'm really, really pleased with it. So
Definitely looking forward to that and talking all about the remastered version of Gravity Rush on the favorite games of 2016 last year. So good to see that your expectations were met.
Yes, indeed.
Very good. CJ, your number 5.
Well, my number 5 game is a game that I don't think I would have said that I was anticipating at all at the beginning of the year, and that's in part because it wasn't even announced. I'm talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Oh, wow.
And this one, of course, is a late edition. I did not really play that much of the first Xenoblade Chronicles. I didn't play any of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but I have pumped over 40 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2 since it came out at the beginning of December. And it's just a fantastic game. It's a well-paced RPG. I don't feel like there's a whole lot of downtime where I'm grinding. I feel like they set the difficulty correctly. There are a lot of systems in the game that I don't understand, but that seems to be okay, at least up till now. I haven't really run into any big stumbling blocks. I just really, really enjoy the game, and it's fantastic to play an RPG of this scale and complexity portably, because it is nice to be able to get just quick sessions in whenever possible. But I also really enjoy the story, and the character designs are okay, a little questionable, and some of the cutscenes have camera angles that are just a little creepy or pervy, but it's still a great game, and it's my number 5.
Rich's mic is off.
Surprised it was that low, considering how much you've been talking about it and playing it the last few weeks. That's awesome. Real quick, my number 5, by the way, and I thank you for this, CJ, because between you and Kat Bailey, my friend, who's the executive or editor-in-chief of US Gamer, you guys turned me on to Golf Story, which is my number 5, which is a wonderful,
Great choice.
Still need to
wonderful
play that game.
game. So wonderful, and my son loves it too, which is again just a great way to experience video games, as you guys know, when you get to experience them both with and in parallel, separate experiences, but at the same sort of time as your kids. All right, so we will stay with you, CJ, for your number 4. Oh, wait, timeout. I screwed it up. I didn't announce it. Phil, please take us in.
Number 4.
Numero cuatro.
There we go.
I'm liking this.
Okay.
Boy, yeah.
All right. CJ, your number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Splatoon 2.
Great choice.
I was a huge fan of the first game. Played a lot of it, and Splatoon 2, I've played over 100 hours, I think it says on my Switch. And I have not been able to participate in every Splatfest, but I really love that they do that, and I love that they have added maps from the first game. I think now all the maps or almost all of the original maps from the first game have been added. And then they add weapons so regularly, even if I don't use them. I still like the fact that they're supporting it with new content so often. I mean, it so regularly gets new content. It usually at least gets me to boot it up and buy whatever new gun or try whatever new map they've unveiled. And I haven't even finished the single-player game yet. I'm very close.
You're so close.
I'm very close, but I haven't yet. And I just really love this IP, and I know a lot of people call it Splatoon Deluxe or Splatoon 1.5 or whatever, but they have added so much to it over the past few months since it came out in July. I just can't get enough of it, and I hope they continue to add new levels and challenges and stuff to it in 2018, and I can't wait to see what else this team has in store for us.
All right. Well, that brings us to you, Phil.
My number 4 game of the year is a game that I played on the personal computer, and that is Cuphead. The beautiful, ultra-challenging Cuphead is a game that I had been eagerly anticipating ever since I saw the first video of it, a year or 2 ago?
At least 2.
At this point. And it came out, and I picked it up, and it's everything I was hoping it would be. It's is tough, but not to the point where I get frustrated with it and want to quit. I still haven't beat it, so maybe it is that tough. But yeah, the music, the animation, everything comes together in that sort of perfect homage to the old Fleischer cartoons, and controls like a dream, plays like a dream, challenge like a nightmare. I love me some Cuphead. So yeah, that's my number 4.
For a 10-year-old?
Probably a little too tough.
Okay.
Yeah. I would imagine a 10-year-old would get very frustrated. Or you know what? Maybe not though. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was 10.
5 inches ago.
Jeez, fellas. We're just trying to have a good time here. We're talking about our favorite video games and stuff, and then you have to make it personal like that. It's just like, that's not cool.
Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. When I was a kid, maybe not 10, maybe a little older than 10, though, I was playing games like Ghouls and Ghosts and Ninja Gaiden, and I was playing some very, very difficult games, and I would stick with them and play through them over and over again until I mastered them. And I finished Ninja Gaiden back in the day and all that. So you know what? Maybe
that's double tough.
Okay,
maybe
he's expressed an interest in it, and I haven't been able to sort of look into it yet. And I didn't play it this year, unfortunately. It's one of those.
Okay, it's I mean, it's a beautiful game, and it's a ton of fun. So you know what? If the kid is up to a challenge, then
the kid doesn't suck.
Yeah,
Well, I think Ethan said it. He's not beating his 11-year-old at Mario Kart anymore.
There we go.
And I'm kind of in the same boat. When he wants to, he can beat me in a lot of these games now.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to you. I think I will. That brings us to you, Greg. Your number 4.
My number 4 is a little game that another one that I played on the Switch. Don't know if you've heard of it or not. It's called The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing game. First game, obviously, on the Switch that most of us played. Had trouble getting into the direction that they took with this Zelda. Still looking back on it now, not sure if I was completely happy with the big open world and the lack of dungeons and the breakable gear. Still, actually, I don't think I'll ever be to the point that I was happy with the breakable gear. But in spite of all of my hesitations and misgivings about that game, it's definitely a masterpiece, and it's up there. It's up there in the top 5 Zeldas for sure. It still to me doesn't hold a candle to at least my memories of A Link to the Past.
A Link to the Past is so good.
But it is an excellent game and a real accomplishment. And I still have not had a chance to check out the last bit of DLC. So that's something that I'm going to be jumping into probably first thing in the new year. Great game.
Very good. I imagine
that'll be someone's number 1.
Imagine somebody's going to have Breath of the Wild on their list moving forward. Something tells me. All right. Well, that brings us to you, Ethan. Your number 4.
Please be Zelda. Please be Zelda. I think it'd be amazing.
So my number 4 is the scariest game I've ever played. It is the game that I woke up my wife when she was sleeping, and she rushed downstairs to see if I was okay, and I couldn't hear her asking because I had a headset on. This is, of course, Resident Evil 7.
Yes.
Came out at the very start of the year, is still by far the best VR experience I have ever had. And it is on PSVR and not 5 and not Oculus. So the console VR experience, this is the definitive one. Absolutely incredible. It had just this constant sense of ick throughout. That was so powerful. Just like watching the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it had that feeling of grime and disgust and discomfort.
And tension.
Always. Yes. And it just kept escalating. And it is unlike anything I had played before or since. It is the best, in my opinion, of the Resident Evil games, though it's so fundamentally different than 4 that it might not even be fair to make a comparison, but it moved me more. And it was also really exciting to see Capcom take a series that, let's be honest, had gotten very stale by Resident Evil 6.
Completely
that felt like it was, that it was just kind of a meaningless property, and totally reinvigorated it. It is something that I think everyone should play. If you have a PSVR, getting one for Christmas, this should be your first game. And I played the entire game in VR.
Ethan, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm just going to say I respect everything you're saying, and I can guarantee you there's no way I will ever come near playing this game ever for every reason you just said.
I want to call out, too, this came very close to making my top 5. I'd say it's probably number 6 for me.
Yeah. So last thing I'll say about it is the 3D effects also, in addition to just having that the 360 surround. When you have these swarms of bees coming at you or someone jumping in your face, the 3D makes a huge difference. It's a huge win.
For all those reasons you said, I will never play that game. Yikes. I cannot deal with that kind of stuff. Yikes. All right, my number 4, by the way, Greg is going to be very upset with me. It's Forza 7. Spectacular game. Wonderful. One of the most fun racing games I've ever played. Looked amazing. And I'm getting myself one of those new Xbox One X's to hook up to a new 4K TV. Got a whole cool thing going on, so I'm very excited to see what it looks like in that too.
Be interested to hear your thoughts.
Nice.
All right. Well, Phil, I think you know what it's time to do.
Number 3.
Numero tres.
All right. Smirk really goes a long way.
We will stay with you, Mr. Ethan Einhorn.
Yeah, so having been somebody who worked for 12 years at Sega, nothing excited me from a nostalgia standpoint more this year than playing Sonic Mania. And so Sonic Mania is my number 3. I think that it is just a perfect take on what those classic Sonic games used to be, handled by probably the one person who can do it better than anyone else in the world, Christian Whitehead. I was lucky to be at Sega when we started working with him on Sonic CD and Sonic 1 and 2. And I never saw coming that after I left, they would actually hand him and his team the rights to do their very own Sonic sequel. But Sonic Mania is just a perfect expression of what's come before and, what the game would look like if it had continued in 2D on the Saturn. And it fits perfectly alongside those other titles. I think it was the Sonic 4 everyone actually wanted. And it was a game that I played all the way through twice, once, on easy, and then just, focusing on playing as Knuckles and making it more difficult for myself. But I just loved it. I loved every second.
That game might also make its way onto other people's lists on the show as well. All right, moving on to you, Mr. Stewart.
My number 3 is the sequel to my, I believe it was my number 1 game last year. It's Formula 1 2017. Best racing game of the year by far, which should tell you something, Rich. You're saying that your Forza being number 4 for you would upset me. Not at all. Forza didn't make my top 5. But F1 2017 did. This is building on what was the best Formula 1 console game, in my opinion, ever. Taking it to whole new heights. The career mode is so robust now. Bringing back all the classic cars is a great move. A lot of the new championship styles they have let you do a lot of things outside of going into career mode and sort of grinding away at that. But if you are an F1 fan, if you're a fan of the sport, there's so much to love here. The upgrade tree is ridiculously intricate. Being able to have parts that fail, having to deal with worn out gearbox, different parts of the engine, and replacing those things, and also the effect that has on your racing and grid penalties, which is a huge part of the sport. I mean, it's just a really, really beautiful treatment of the sport by a team that clearly gets it, clearly has massive respect for it. And it's a great racing game to boot. It's just fun to play. It's fun to play with the wheel. It's fun to play with a controller. I absolutely love every minute I spend in this game, even when I'm losing. And as usual, like they did last year, they have captured the whole. So we say this all the time when talking to Dr. Ken as well. We talk about this, where the whole point of the whole thing about an F1 race is that it's a bunch of small separate storylines that are happening all at once. And Codemasters captures that beautifully in their series, and they continue to do so with 2017. So that's my number 3.
I think another thing that's important for people who have heard you talk about F1 for years but have never played it, I asked you guys a question on our last racing show where I said, if I like racing games, but I know nothing about F1, nothing at all, is there a way that I can just start playing this game and enjoy it? And both you and Dr. Ken emphatically said yes. And then I went on to the Xbox One Games Pass, downloaded F1 2015, and just jumped right in and started racing. And you're right. You can just not know anything. You just want to race. The game makes it really easy to jump in and race and experience what you are correct in, that this is the best handling, best feeling racing game that you can play. So I recommend it if there's any way for you to give it a shot, even if you don't know anything about F1, which I don't. I literally know nothing other than it doesn't happen here in the United States or North America. Or if it does.
Yeah, it does.
I don't even know. Oh, well, there you go. I didn't even know that. That's great. Yeah. All right.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is Rich roboting for anybody else?
Yes.
Or he's got
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yes.
You may have to unplug and replug your microphone or something like that. I don't know if it's going to screw up your GarageBand.
We need to use one of those Simpsons technical difficulties images.
That's right.
Well, hopefully, is it still, or are you guys?
Yeah, it's still
bad.
doing it.
All right. I will redo my mic. Hold on one moment.
I would stop GarageBand, save out, and start over again.
Yeah,
You know that. You know that.
And we'll do another clap at the end.
Just remember to do
I
it.
think we do. I'll try to remember.
La la la.
I'm gonna take this time out while Rich is fixing his microphone to talk about another Game of the Year podcast that I quite enjoyed this year. There are plenty of them out there. I think every podcast does that whole thing. But the Computer Game Show, it's a podcast out of the UK with James Farley and David Turner and Matt Murray and Sean Bell, and they are great. And they do a Game of the Year thing kind of as a bracket, and it's really fun. They do one show where they vote for the 12 games they're going to do, or maybe it's 16, and then the next show they face everything off in a bracket system. It's really
Nice.
quite awesome, and the show that they did this year is fantastic. Highly recommended. The Computer Game Show.
I really like those
I'll
guys.
link to them in
Yeah.
the show notes. It's great. It's a great show. Super
They
fun.
listen to us too, actually.
Oh, do they?
At least one of them does.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
James Farley does, but I don't know about the rest of them. But it's a great show and well worth listening to. And Rich, you're muted on Hangouts. There we go.
Is this any
you're
better?
muted.
Yep.
This is better.
Much better. Yes.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. My apologies to everybody.
It happens. It happens to everybody.
Okay.
Don't worry, Rich. It happens to men your age all the time.
I deserve that. Okay, so if you didn't hear me waving my arms and talking about how F1 anyone can play it. All right, number 3 to Phil Theobald.
My number 3 game was Zelda Breath of the Wild.
My man.
There we
All
go.
right.
Great game. Great game. Pretty much echoing just everything Greg said. I too had some difficulty kind of getting into the open worldness of it, but there is no denying that it is exceptionally well made and it is a blast to explore. And one of these days I'll finish it. So
How close are you?
oh, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Really?
Huge game.
No, I got distracted with other games started coming out. So,
Hmm.
I have that bad habit of starting to play a game and then moving on to another game and then never going back. So
Yep.
that's my problem.
That's, I think, all of our problem.
That's from the games journalism thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In part.
You should just roll the dice and see if you like the game or not, and then move on.
Wow.
Man.
Oh,
What am I, an EGM reviewer?
Listen,
All right.
we read the back of the box sometimes.
Sometimes.
We at least
Or
watched
at
the
least-
demo.
At least have an intern read the back of the box.
people don't understand. There were so many games. We had
There
deadlines.
were so many games.
All right, CJ, your number 3 game.
Well, my number 3 is Friday the 13th, the game. And this one kind of came out of left field for me as well. I had followed their Kickstarter. So their Kickstarter started as a Friday the 13th game called Summer Camp Volume 1. And they somehow got in touch with Sean Cunningham, and he gave them the license to Friday the 13th. This small indie Kickstarted game. They got the license for Friday the 13th, and somehow they made it work, even though the game seemed, or the servers anyway, seemed to be plastered together with tape and chewing gum and whatever else they could get.
A couple of
to get
Wii
this
U's.
thing working. Yeah, a couple old Wii U's. But it's just a fantastic experience, and I watched people streaming it, and it just looks like so much fun that I picked up the game and spent the time during that launch week, waiting for games to start and all that stuff. But once you actually got into the game, it was super fun, and I had some of the best experiences playing an online game in Friday the 13th, the game, this year. some of the just super funny moments that happen in the game. The whole idea of Jason playing against 7 counselors, and the gameplay itself, it just, I don't know. There's something about it that was just called to me, and it was fun. And playing as Jason is fun. You can be a terrible Jason, and the counselors will still have fun because they're winning. And you can be a terrible counselor and still have fun. So,
better than PUBG.
A fantastic game all around, and one of the best online experiences I've ever had, despite being a game that has like a 56 on Metacritic, which I think speaks to 2017 being one of the years where you don't get all of your opinion on games from game reviews. Like, a lot of it is just so subjective, and you could love a game that somebody else or that a professional critic absolutely pans. Which I find is also the case with movies. Some of the movies I like are ones that have gotten critically panned. But that didn't really happen with games so much before the last year or two, where I really like a game that got under a 60 Metacritic. I mean, that didn't happen before, really. So Friday the 13th is my number 3. It's just such a unique experience, and I love that they're continually adding content to it. They did a costume pack for Halloween, which was awesome. They did like a swimsuit pack too. That was
Jason
great.
X.
They're going to do Jason X and the space station, which I think is awesome. I can't wait to play that. But I'm so glad that they're continuing to support it with content. And they did an emote pack. It's just a fantastic game, and I wish those developers all the success in the world. They really pulled together something amazing. Oh, and I think
Rich's
Rich, your mic is off.
Uh-oh.
As I was saying, and my number 3 real quick is Pro Evolution Soccer 2018, the best soccer game ever made.
Only good thing coming out to Konami anymore.
Well, and I know everyone loves to hate on Konami, as they all have every reason to do it, but boy, am I glad Konami makes Pro Evo Soccer. It is just wonderful. Everything, the controls, the feel, the realism, unbelievable. If I could only play one sports game, that's the one that I would play.
Wow.
Okay. So, Phil, I think you know what to do.
Number 2.
Numero dos. All right, CJ. We are sticking with you, sir.
All right. Well, only 2 more games left on my list. I mean, what could they possibly
I know. This is just
be?
Yeah, here we go.
So anticlimactic.
My number 2 is Super Mario Odyssey. And the game is just so good. Like, from start to finish, as a Mario fan, like, I couldn't stop smiling while playing. And I liked Mario 64 for what it was, but I didn't love it. And this game, being a return to that sort of open world form, I loved the design here, and there was just so much to do in all of the levels, especially in the game after the game, where everything kind of opens up, and it really feels like the main part of the story is only a third of the total experience. And I really liked the pacing, and the levels were designed really well, and I love Jump Up Superstar.
Yes.
I thought that was a great turn for the series and for Nintendo to do a song with lyrics, right? And not just one song, but 2 songs in Mario Odyssey, and they're both great. And I love everything about this game. Can't really speak any more highly about it. I mean, it's great, and it's crazy that Nintendo had 2 games this year that were so groundbreaking and just like the top of their genre, in my opinion. Any other year that this game came out, it would have been my game of the year, but it is relegated to number 2 in 2017.
Very good. Okay. Phil, your number 2.
My number 2 game is Steamworld Dig 2.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Surprise.
Worth it. That's a great choice.
I was a huge fan of the original Steamworld Dig. I played through that game probably 3 or 4 times on as many different systems. I was super stoked for this one, and it did not disappoint. It's as we've discussed on the show, it's a Metroid style game where you sort of create your own mazes as you dig through the earth, and this sequel has done a lot in terms of just adding new items and methods of getting around the level that by the end, when you are fully powered up, you feel like you can do just about anything and go just about anywhere in this game. And it is immensely satisfying and just a blast. I played through it on PS4, and I will probably be buying it on PC and probably a couple other systems at some point and playing through it again. It is fantastic.
You didn't
Gotta
pick
play
it up
this.
on Switch?
I have not picked it up on Switch yet.
Really? Okay.
Ooch.
Way to support the developers, Phil.
Oh,
Way
no,
to
wait.
go.
No, I lied. I did pick it up on
I
Switch.
feel like you were playing it on Switch when we were
I
in
was
Vegas.
playing it on Switch. You're right.
Way to support the developers,
Not to call
Phil.
you out, but
I did pick it up on Switch. That was a lie. So,
Okay.
Just testing you. He's
But
just
did
testing
you also pick it up on PS4?
Phil was drunk. Phil was drunk and high the whole time we were in
it
Vegas.
was.
you. It was the Benda.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that was just based off the White Castle I ate.
That's
That's
yep.
Yeah,
that's how much White Castle I had.
it was. Yeah, it was an adrenaline high. It was.
Yeah. No, I lied. I didn't play it on PS4. I played it on Switch. So, never mind.
They are very
Yep.
similar systems, of course.
They
Sure.
are.
All right. Greg, your second favorite game of the year.
I can't believe that in 2017, 4 of my top 5 games are either from Nintendo or Sega.
Mhm. Yep.
It feels like the good old days. And my number 2 is Sonic Mania.
All right.
This was wow. Like Ethan talked about it earlier in the show, and everything he said is absolutely right. I mean, this was the Sonic game that I think old school Sonic fans desperately needed at this point. There have been good Sonic games since the switch over to Adventure on the Dreamcast. Not great, in my opinion, not great Sonic games, except maybe Generations. This was a really satisfying glimpse into what, like Ethan said, what Sonic could have been had they kept going down the 2D route. It was great because it was very nostalgic, but it didn't pander. The nostalgia wasn't the entire experience, which was the best part. It had great level design. It has great level design. I love the way that they served the old fans, where there are some levels that you start where the music and the levels are literally torn right out of the games that they, like Sonic 1 or Sonic 2, basically, but it only lasts for a minute or so into the level, and then you're just sort of off and running, and you can go anywhere, and everything's changed, and there's a bunch of fresh new ideas, but still staying sort of within the realm of classic Sonic physics and classic Sonic's worlds. It just ended up being such a great game. I couldn't put it down. It was exactly what somebody like me, who cherishes my memories of gaming in the 90s, which is when Sonic was at his biggest, and being a big Sega nerd, was fantastic. I really hope Sega gives these guys another shot at making another game like this in the future, because it was a revelation. It's just so great. One of my favorite gaming memories the whole year.
Those Sonic CD style cutscenes at the beginning and end also.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. Like, just there were lots and lots of nods to old school fans without saying, "Hey, remember when this was cool?" And that's like the breadth of the experience. Like that's as deep as it goes. It's like, no, here's this surface, and now within a minute we're going to let you get way deeper into this and show you we've created a really robust game here, and you're going to love it.
I think you could argue it's also the best $20 you can spend all year.
Oh yeah, just a great game.
Does anyone know if the game did well? Like, did it do well?
Really don't know.
I hope so.
It must have, because it was on the top of the charts on Switch anyway for many months
A
consecutively.
long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because not to get too ahead of anything, but it was on one of my runners. It was on my list of runners up, but didn't make my top 5. Okay, so that brings us to Ethan, your second favorite game of 2017.
Yeah, I'm going to fall in line with CJ here. It is, for me, also Super Mario Odyssey. With the passage of time, I've had some chance to chew on it, and I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite 3D Mario game, because I really did love Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and I love the structure of those games. But this game is like an everlasting gobstopper. I just continue to play it. There is so much content. All the stuff that unlocks after the game is really fun to explore, and a lot of like really cool new challenges. It feels almost like 2 games in one. The variety of the environments is absolutely fantastic. The care that's been crafted in just making sure that every sequence is fun and fresh. The initial gameplay story that has possibly the most perfect pacing I've ever seen in a game is just it's peerless design. It's absolutely incredible, and it still blows my mind that we got not only a new game system from Nintendo, but games like this and Zelda all in 1 year. It's absolutely incredible, and I couldn't be more excited. So yeah, this definitely gets my nod for number 2.
Fantastic. Well, before we get to number 1, we wanted to go around and see some runners up. What are some games that should have been, could have been, would have been on the list, but for whatever reason weren't? And Ethan, what were some of your key runners up?
So rapid fire. Number 10 would have been Fire Emblem Echoes. Number 9, Metroid Samus, Return of Samus, or Samus Returns. Which one did we agree on?
Samus Returns.
It's not really us agreeing on it. It's Nintendo naming the
Stating
game.
objectively, yeah. 8 would have been Horizon Zero Dawn. 7, Assassin's Creed Origins, and 6, Mario and Rabbids.
All right. Greg, your runners up that didn't make your top 5.
I can rapid fire this top 10 as well. 10 would be Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. 9, Forza Motorsport 7. 8, Resident Evil 7. 7 would be Metroid: The Girl with the Samus Tattoo. And 6 is Gran Turismo Sport. And honestly, as far as reasons why they didn't make the top 5, it's because this was an incredible year.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my God,
those being in the top 10, like those are all amazing games. So, this was a hard year to come up with a top 5, I found.
Gran Turismo Sport was my disappointment of the year.
Stop
Ooh.
it.
Not fun. Not fun. All right. Phil, your runners up.
You know what? My runners up. Well, Sonic came very close to getting in my top 5, but my runners up, I'm actually replacing with my regrets that I didn't get a chance to really invest that much time in, and will probably end up on my list of games that I played. Old games that I played. Yeah, a year late. I just games that probably would have ended up somewhere in my top 5 had I played more of them. Resident Evil 7, Horizon Zero Dawn, Night in the Woods, which I just picked up and have been meaning to play. Yakuza 0, Ys 8. For crying out loud, I love Ys, but I just haven't had time to sit down and play through it. I've been waiting for the retranslation.
Right.
But so some big name games that I regretfully just haven't had the time to get into as much this year. So,
and CJ, your runners ups.
Well, before I do my runners ups, I wanted to say that Adult Swim Games has made some absolutely fantastic games in 2017.
Really?
And of course, the rules of this show meant that I could not list any of them as my top 5 games, but Rise and Shine, Rain World, Battle Chef Brigade, Robot Unicorn Attack 3, absolutely stellar games that under any other circumstance would of course have made up my top 5. But I could not mention them there, but I mentioned them now. Now to talk about runners up. I just have a list. I don't have a 10 necessarily, but some of the other games that I had weighed were Uncharted Lost Legacy, Steamworld Dig 2, Mario plus Rabbids, ARMS, Destiny 2, Golf Story, Puyo Puyo Tetris, Sonic Mania, and Night Trap 25th.
Oh, good call.
There you go.
Okay, and you tease me for liking old games on the Switch.
I think that's just Greg, really.
No,
Uh-huh.
that's
What?
fair, too.
A man can't like Night Trap?
25th anniversary is a lot different than, ooh, this is new when it came up 5 years ago.
Also, it offered a lot that was new.
I sort of took a slightly different track in that I picked basically 3 games that I did play a pretty decent amount of and just didn't make the top 5. And those were ARMS, Splatoon 2, and Sonic Mania. I enjoyed all of those, but just they weren't quite there for my top 5. And my number 2 was Super Mario Odyssey. So that brings us to
Number 1.
numero uno. And
Gonna need a minute.
we will go to you, Mr. CJ.
All right. Well, no surprise here. My number 1 game, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Start the Zelda lovin'.
Gasp. Who'd have thunk
And
it?
if you could only see Greg, if you're listening to the show, shaking dice. It
Yeah.
was
That's
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out my EGM review for this thing.
He's rolling them bones.
Yes. I mean, I was really looking forward to this game ever since it was first announced. I mean, that first teaser video, really. And I've played many a Zelda game, and they have been many of my top games previously. And Breath of the Wild, to me, was just that much more gooder than the rest.
Really?
What's that?
More gooder. I said more gooder.
It's got more gooderness in it. It's
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
filled to the brim with more gooderness.
That's right. And I mean, part of it is, when the DLC 2 came out and I started playing that, and recently in this last week, I went back to the Zora domain to do that bit of the Champions Ballot. And I realized, especially when I used the Heroes Path function that came out with the first DLC, that there was an area that I just never been to. Like, part of the area I was doing for that DLC, I had never been to, never even touched, like this very large area. So, I mean, it's things like that, right? Exploration being number 1. Any of the enemy encampments that you approach could mean death. Like, you really have to think about how you approach everything. The weapons breaking, I think a lot of people hated that. And early on, it was definitely a detriment. But, I quickly just got enough weapons and collected enough Korok seeds where suddenly that wasn't a hurdle anymore. So I love what they did with the music, too. Like, having that sort of low-key, piano-only soundtrack. Like, it's kind of risky, really. Like, when you have a series that is so... people love Zelda, and they have a certain thing in their mind, like it's always going to have music, and it's going to be this or that, or the dungeons are going to be this way. And for them to go in so many different directions with this game and reinvent a lot of the things, I mean, it was risky. It had to have been risky, right? And they took their time and delayed this game several times and got it right, in my opinion, and also added so much cool stuff with the DLC. There's just no other experience like it. I loved all of the shrines. The only thing I didn't like about it was the story and the cutscenes and the memories that you collect. I thought weren't great, and I didn't like the English dub much at all. I thought it was pretty bad, to be honest.
Zelda herself I thought was terribly delivered.
Yeah,
it sounded like somebody who is not British doing a British accent.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't understand why they went in that direction. But maybe they'll fix that next time. I don't know. I hope we don't have to wait 5 more years for another Zelda game of this caliber, because it was just great. Maybe we'll get something smaller as an in-between game, but I just really love this game. I spent 120 hours playing it, according to my Switch's game clock, and I'm not done with the Champions Ballad, and I really want to try to finish that. And I never even really did the Trial of the Hero, so I'll try some of that too. Game's endlessly replayable. Love it. Number 1.
Fantastic. Phil,
Yes.
your number 1.
Yes.
Well, I was delighted. I know a lot of people were talking about this this year. Could Nintendo pull it off? And yes, Nintendo was able to once again do something great. Super Mario Serial returns to
Triumphantly returns.
Yeah. We all had such fond
Really
memories of the Nintendo Serial system.
Mhm.
And now with the delicious marshmallow bits of question mark blocks, the amiibo functionality right out of the box.
How many boxes did you scalp?
Oh, I've been I hijacked a truck and I've been selling them for $40 a piece on the eBay.
Mm-hmm.
No, my game.
I have not found any boxes in our local Safeway or CVS yet.
I
No,
have
me
not
neither.
either.
I haven't looked.
I have not either.
And the amiibo functionality only gives you like 3 coins.
That's 3 more than you had before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Moneybags. Doesn't need 3 coins. Mario Odyssey, game of the year. Mario Odyssey. Love me, Mario Odyssey. Love me, Mario. Love me, my platformers. And Mario Odyssey does it expertly. Is it the best Mario game of all time? I don't know. Because those Galaxy games are great. And Mario 2. Magnifique.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't even. But yeah, I love Mario Odyssey. So.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Greg.
Phil and I don't see eye to eye, mostly because of the height difference. But we, I gotta say,
jeez, guys. It's the end of the year. It's the holidays. We're getting together. It's supposed to be, time of like friendship and caring, and then you guys go and make it personal like this. Jeez, fellas.
But
yeah,
he does have, out of all my co-hosts, he does have the best taste. And I mean by tasting games. I couldn't tell you physically whether he tasted good.
Now there was that time.
I don't remember what it was. It was vague.
Greg,
it was pitch black. We were eating food.
Greg,
I don't know.
There
I
was a
spilled
towel
this
involved.
Slurpee all over my chest, Greg.
There was a towel involved.
What do I do?
Ethan lost his fork.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. Inserted in
Mario Odyssey. Game of 2017 is Mario Odyssey, hands down.
Yeah.
The Galaxy games were great. I would say that this is my favorite Mario game since 64. I'm not going to compare the two because 64 was such a trailblazer. I'm sure my memories of that game are probably make it better than it maybe was. But Odyssey was just a pleasure from start to finish. I think Ethan said it earlier. The pacing was, for an open world game where you could really find the different moons whenever and wherever, it still amazed me how well paced the game was.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do well. And Nintendo killed it.
Yes, they did.
And then when you finish the game with one of the greatest end sequences ever, I'd say the best end sequence for a Mario game.
Oh, easily.
And that's after New Donk City blew you away. With its
yeah, I mean, that's just it. Every new world, yeah, you can make the argument that the worlds didn't all fit the same theme, although that was the point. The more I go back and think about it, the more I agree with that. Is that the point was that they were supposed to be wildly divergent. That end game sequence was incredible, and then to find out, oh, by the way, yeah, what you've experienced is about 30% of what's here.
Yeah.
And I'm not a person that likes to go back and replay these old levels that you've already spent a lot of time in. And I pick this game up all the time and just keep fiddling around with it and finding more moons and enjoying every second of it. This is a pure pleasure to play. It's the greatest Mario game. It's the greatest achievement they've had in a Mario game since Mario 64, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the great thing about you streamed Mario Odyssey as you were playing it. It was a great stream to watch because you literally could not stop smiling.
Right. That's exactly no. That's really true. And
Great.
if you go back and you look at if you look at that stream, I was like giggling the whole time, and I don't do that. I was just it scratched that itch, but it was a completely new experience, and I could not make it Game of the Year for 2017. Zelda was excellent. Sonic Mania was excellent. Mario Odyssey was in a class of its own.
I'd argue. So that brings us to Ethan. Ethan, your favorite game of the year.
I think it's no surprise that my game of the year is Zelda Breath of the Wild as well. And I think that it holds a very special place in my heart for many reasons. And I mean that sincerely. I think that this is a game that 20, 30 years from now, I'll still be looking back at as a milestone. It's my favorite Zelda game. It is definitely my favorite game of the year. And I think it could well be my favorite game of all time. Possibly competing with Fire Emblem Awakening, which I also adore and put hundreds of hours into. But Breath of the Wild is special to me because it offered, just like the jump from Super Mario World to Mario 64, this kind of expansion of a familiar world into a direction that was risky and new and thrilling. Making Zelda this true open world game where you could take things on in any direction and be creative with your solutions, playing with the physics systems, being able to jump straight to Ganon's castle after you get off the Great Plateau if you wanted to. All of this was incredible and very exciting in this time in which you can watch speed runs to see people actually do it and see people come up with all sorts of new ways around the traditional solutions. And the fact that Nintendo pretty clearly had all of that in mind was really, really exciting. But also, to me, I think what was great about it was that it was tied to the launch of this new console that let me play games in a totally new way. And I had a chance to watch my 10-year-old, who I didn't think could possibly get through a game this difficult, get through the entire thing all by herself and fall in love with a rich, amazing AAA game for the very first time.
Fell in love with Rich?
Have you heard his Spanish?
Well, who couldn't?
But also, especially after you deleted her save that one time.
Right. Yes. So there was a save delete, and she went through the whole thing again. And, but it was really an amazing thing to see this and to know that I'm passing on this experience and that she will treasure the experience as much as I will treasure it. As a dad, that means a tremendous amount. So this game will forever have a place in my heart, as I said, and I love it. And it just absolutely tops off what is one of the best years in video games.
I'll just say that this was also my favorite game of the year for more so than any other reason because of similar to what you're saying. My son, this really impacted him at that age, and he just devoured the game and then came back to it a few months later and is back into it again. Like, it has that kind of effect on him. So just the transformativeness of this game really struck home with me and with my son. It was just, as I mentioned at the top, it was one of the great things about this year was the Switch and the fact that it had so many great games that are family friendly, but also amazing games. It seems like those are harder and harder to find. And so that's the reason why Breath of the Wild was number one for me as well. Well, all right. I think that is a show. And by the way, I don't know who's been watching the whole time. It must be really good to be an Einhorn because there has been gift wrapping going on during the entire recording of this show. With no break. Wow, that is a lot of gifts.
That's true. That is 2 hours of gift wrapping.
My goodness.
Small house, yeah.
Well done, Ethan. I mean, that is a lot of presents for a lot of Einhorns.
Yep.
Those were just switches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was. One of them was.
There you go.
All righty then. Well, I think that wraps up the show. I will turn over the closing duties to the great Chris Johnston.
Well, do we want to do the games we're looking forward to in 2018 real quick too?
Did I miss that? Did I screw that whole thing up? I'm certainly ready, willing, and able to do that. Let's do it. Let's go right for it. Okay, so continuing the fantasy football draft, Ethan, what game are you looking forward to most in 2018?
Spider-Man. I can't wait for Spider-Man.
Just the one? That's it? You don't have a list?
He said game singular. If
Yeah, he
we're
did.
talking about
Yeah.
games plural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'll put two more on the list. I say I'm really excited about Red Dead Redemption 2 and also God of War. The Nintendo games that have been announced so far are exciting to me, but not on that tier. And so hopefully we'll get like a Smash Brothers as well. That would be great. But right now it would be Spidey, Red Dead, and God of War.
Okay, well, that brings us to you, Greg.
I will say Spidey as well. But otherwise, I'm dying to see whatever the next Metroid game is going to be, and whatever the next Forza Horizon is. And honestly, I don't even care when they show it, because when it comes out, I'll just buy it. And it'll be on my top 5 next year. Sneak preview.
And it'll be great. I mean, the team makes amazing
Exactly.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Phil.
Mega Man 11. To no one's surprise, I would imagine.
There's a Mega Man 11 coming out?
Mega Man 11. And, of course, Bayonetta for Switch and Bayonetta 2 for Switch. So, and Bayonetta 3 whenever that comes out. So don't me. Don't dismiss
Usually
me.
it's just Ethan playing the booby games. I don't know.
No.
Alrighty, CJ, that leaves it to you.
Well, I have a list.
Oh boy.
You get to say 3.
Okay, fine. Last
And
of Us
then no
Part
Adult
2.
Swim game.
Last of Us Part 2. Metroid Prime 4. And Spider-Man, of course.
There you go.
There you go.
See, even with us each firing out just a few games, holy crap, 2018 is going to be amazing too.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna be good stuff.
There's some big stuff coming out.
Far Cry 5.
Yep.
A lot of stuff.
Excellent. Okay, well, let's try that again, shall we? CJ, I will give you, sir, the closing honors.
Alrighty. How do I do this thing again? I've forgotten.
Oh boy.
What are we
So
at?
close.
Scoop Fest?
We're so
Yeah,
close.
exactly. Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something that you heard, you can direct that to @P1 Podcast on the Twitters, or you can go to our internet website at playeronpodcast.com. There you'll find our contact information. You'll find blog entries about Sega CD stuff from Mr. Greg Stewart.
New one coming up soon.
You'll find Generation 16 episodes.
First couple weeks of January, I think, will be the next one.
Yeah, you'll find show notes of all the shows we've done, all the relevant links to things that we talked about during the show, and such as that. Although this week, I don't know if I'm going to actually list out a spoiler of whatever these games of the year were, because that's a little unfair, quite honestly. So we won't put that in the show notes. But usually they're quite detailed, and I spend a lot of time on them. And hey, the episodes have chapter stops and all that good stuff, so I'm gonna have fun with that this week.
Oh boy.
I have to put in something for every number. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh,
We'll
man.
see
This
how-
is a show meant to be listened to just in its entirety straight through, CJ. No chapter needed.
No chapters? Well, okay. Maybe I'll just leave it to the big sections. But anyway, and we have a message board where you can discuss this episode with us and our other listeners.
If you'd like to subscribe to the Player One Podcast, you can do so by visiting playeronepodcast.com or by going to the Apple Podcast app or something.
That's right.
People,
You did it right.
people know how to subscribe to podcasts by now. It's been 11 years. You can figure it out.
Yeah, probably.
And you can go to the iTunes Music Store. While you're at the iTunes Music Store, you can also invest $1.99.
Cheap.
Pick up the Player One Podcast iPhone application. Gives you one-touch communication with us via the emails, the Twitters, what have you. Also have all of our episodes ready to stream right to your listen device. And hey, Android cell phone, telephone users, the Player One Podcast iPhone application is available for your listen device as well for that same $1.99.
Also cheap.
Find that right over there at the Amazon Android Marketplace. We're also on Stitcher Radio. You can like us on Facebook. You can see archives of our show and watch us live most weeks on the youtube.com/P1 podcast. Is there anywhere else you can see us or listen to us or any other?
Yeah, we're all over the place.
We're all over the place. You
Wherever
can't
you
escape
find,
us.
Podcasts.
The internet is lousy with the Player One podcast, so just
True.
try to avoid us. Bing us, and you'll see for yourself just how we're everywhere. And if you've liked what you've heard,
How could you?
and how could you? Head over to patreon.com/P1 podcast. Throw a few shekels our way. It keeps the Iron Horde household swimming in gifts. Someone's got
I
to
don't
pay for
think
those
that's
presents.
how it
Someone
Yeah, I
has
think
to
that
pay for those
someone
presents.
is me.
Yeah, I know how it works.
Mhm.
I know how it works. Ethan needs switches for every possible instance in his house.
Yep,
Seems
there's
okay.
one.
you go.
I'm okay
There's
with
one in
that.
a dock in every single room.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that decision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree with it.
And
That's
Yeah.
pretty much true.
if you have a couple bucks left over, head over to generation-16.com. You'll find the Patreon link to help support Greg Stewart's outstanding web series about North America's favorite second banana, the Sega Genesis.
Please do.
Yeah, we got a new episode for the new year cooking.
Yep, that is the plan.
Outstanding. Cannot wait. Yeah, CJ,
Yeah.
thanks for making 2017 bright.
Well, thank you, Phil.
You know,
Thanks,
2000
thanks for showing up this week.
sit and spin, Johnston. Sit and spin. No, I'm just playing with you.
Thanks,
you know
and
what?
Merry Christmas in Illinois.
Thank you,
Right.
CJ, for dealing with hotel Wi-Fi to make it this week.
This isn't even hotel Wi-Fi. I'm tethered to my iPad.
You're tethered to your iPad right now.
Yeah.
So there
CJ's
you
cell
go.
phone bill is going through the roof.
That's right.
Gregory,
Yo.
thank you for joining us as well.
Thank you, Phil. And also, where this is the last episode of 2017, I want to thank all of our fans for making 2017 such a great year. That includes all the support you give us as a show, all the support we saw from the Scoops at Scoop
Yes.
Fest,
Yes.
all the support I've seen on my streams every week, especially Extra Life, up over $8,000 now. Got another donation this week.
Nice.
So it's $8,065 now.
Oh, so
And-
close.
Yeah, I know. And of course, Generation 16, the support for Generation 16 this year. Thank you so much, everybody. The only reason we do this is because of the support we get from you guys.
Word
And
of
gals.
mouth.
True.
Ethan.
Yes, sir.
Whoa, sir. I like that.
Oh, that's his dad.
Thank you for joining
you,
us.
Phil.
Thank you for taking some time out of your gift wrapping routine to
Ethan, would you have been doing any of that rapping if you hadn't been on the show anyway? Like,
Oh, I'd be rapping. It would
would
just
you?
be
Let's hear it.
Yeah, it would just
would it be
yeah,
freestyle or would it
Yeah.
be?
Freestyle rap.
it'd be awkward rhyming. Yeah.
Super hot fire. I spit that.
A rap.
2.5 Men. I watched that.
A little Two Live Crew action.
I wouldn't watch 2.5 Men. I would watch 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Well,
But yeah.
Gah.
and after that, you would watch a Steve Gutenberg movie.
Right.
Who keeps Steve Gutenberg a star?
We do.
And at this time of year, a very, very extra special, double, triple thanks to our good friend, the
Kevin
host
Larrabee.
with the most. I speak, of course, of, hold on, which one is this? Let me look up the email.
Rich.
It's, oh, yes! Grish Richam.
Grish
I
Richam.
mean, damn it. Ah, he's doing so
Almost had it.
well.
So close.
Rich
Something
Grisham,
right at the
everyone.
finish line.
thank you for joining us again. We love having you on the show. You are an outstanding host. And we love, of course, your excessive praise of us.
Well, I will say, first of all, thank you guys very much. As a fan of the show, I feel like I can speak for all of us fans of the show that say thank you guys for doing the show every week for so long. For many people, you guys you feel like good friends. And so thank you guys. Continue doing what you do. And thank you for keeping on making the Player One podcast the best show on the internet.
And hey, Rich, we need you to grab a calendar and pencil us in for about 19 weeks from now. We need you for the big 600.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap.
That's going to be fantastic.
600 episodes. This is so stupid.
This is ridiculous.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
It's true.
Years from now, when all of this is uncovered, your legacy will be 600, 700, 800, 1,000. Who knows how many episodes of the Player One podcast?
I'm flat broke. This is all I'm leaving my children. That and a Sega CD collection that won't be worth shit.
Yeah.
Well, Snatcher.
So this and $400 is what I'm leaving my children.
And I guess we'll see everybody in 2018.
The whole year from now.
Future.
Yeah. Please
And also,
look
don't
forward
forget
to it.
we have to do a clap, so don't stop recording.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to stop recording.
Recording.
That's because of me, this guy right here. Dope.
It's okay. Alrighty. That's it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Happy
folks.
holidays.
Bye-bye, kitties.
Watch out for the mousies.
That's a tip, kids.
Stop. Just stop.